standing at the border of what we used to know. 5 points in the darkness make a different kind of show. They say we're better together, but what do they know when the stars align differently down here below? And maybe we'll rise when we cut all the ties. There's a flag that we fly under our own sky. Remember all the stories that your granddad told about a republic that wouldn't be controlled. Now the suits in the city say we've all been sold, but there's a fire burning that just won't get old. And maybe we'll rise when we cut all the ties. There's a flag that we fly under our own sky. They draw their lines on paper, we draw ours in the sand. Some dreams are getting closer, while some don't understand. Don't understand. The highways stretch forever toward a setting sun, where cattle graze on memories of battles won. They say unity's the answer, but maybe we're done with playing by the rules of the chosen ones. Oh, maybe we'll rise when we cut all the ties. There's a flag that we fly under our own sky. Maybe we'll rise when we cut all the ties. There's a flag that we fly under our own sky. Our own sky. Our own sky.
Well, good evening, fellow Texians. It is I, yet again, for another late night coffee talk. And I want to thank you guys so much. You know, had to cancel last week because we were on the road, but we'll talk about that here in a bit. But before, let's do this. Before we get started with everything, let's just go ahead and get all the business out of the way. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome to Late Night Coffee Talk. It is that time where generally once a week I take a break from working on Texas independence, come in here and fire up this camera, and you and I have a conversation. You ask your questions about anything, right? The TNM, Texas politics, culture, the world at large, even personal questions, whatever you want. And I will spend the next, the remainder of the hour answering your questions. And so, yeah, it's fun, right? Did I introduce myself? Oh man, hang on. I need some more of this. No, I didn't. I'm Daniel Miller, president of the Texas Nationalist Movement, and this is Late Night Coffee Talk. That there, just in case I didn't do it, right? I'm tired. I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, that being said, how do you ask questions? Well, it is quite simple. If you're watching on the Texian app, just drop them in the special Q&A section. If you'll look down there at the bottom underneath the video, you'll see a Q&A section. You can drop the question in there. If you're watching on any of the other platforms, just drop it in the chat. See, it's become so much easier. Now they're all kind of doing it the same, right? Whether it's YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, X, just drop the question in the chat. Kara is that direction, and she will be looking for your questions in that chat and dropping them over here so I'll be able to see them. Plus, if you don't want to do any of that stuff, you can drop your questions to coffeetalk@thetnm.org. That's coffeetalk@thetnm.org. So much shorter when there's kind of alignment. I like that. I don't have to explain. Oh yeah, and if you're not watching us on the Texian app, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell and do all those things. But in the end, why would you be anywhere else but the Texian app, right? I mean, this is where the Texians hang out. So anyway, this is going to be fun tonight. Already got some good questions in, some related to the Texian app. You guys have had access to it for about 3 weeks now, right? So yeah, been a lot of shakedown crews, but you guys have got some questions about that, and I'm going to take those tonight. We've already had some questions come in about the conference that I was at over the weekend, which I am excited to talk about. Had some questions about that ridiculous article written in Wired magazine by Ryan Griffiths. There have been some questions about Dustin Burrows, Speaker of the Texas House, extending a bit of an olive branch on the issue of self-determination to counties in New Mexico that want to come to Texas. So, those are some of the topics. If you got questions around those, go ahead and get them in now. And we'll talk about that. Just because we've had one or two come in about those doesn't necessarily mean we'll get to them tonight, but they're there. And if you want to talk about those more, send some questions in about those. Oh man, I don't know that there is enough coffee on this planet. It has been a bit of a whirlwind, but yeah, thank you to whoever is in the chat saying they're making a cup. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Making a cup. Yes. God bless Texas and God bless you, sir. All right. Let's get down to it. So this is funny. Nothing like having your membership director troll you in the chat. I mean, what does it take here? Anyway, all right, let's get down to it. So let's talk a little bit about where I was over the weekend. So as I mentioned, Thursday, I was not able to do coffee talk because I was on the road. And initially, the thought was that we would travel and we would be there in enough time that I could set up, my rig that I do a lot of times when I'm on the road at the hotel and just shoot it from the hotel room. However, that was not to be because shortly. So, for those of you who don't know, there was an article on the Texian Partisan about it. I was invited to speak at a conference hosted by the Abbeville Institute in Montgomery, Alabama, and I was there as basically one of two practitioners. Right, all academics except for myself, I think, and Mike Meharry from the 10th Amendment Center. To just kind of talk about what we do. Obviously, the topic was the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and what it meant then and what it means now. What lessons from the Declaration can we pull to the 21st century? And so, first and foremost, let me extend my personal thanks and gratitude to Brian McClanahan, who extended the invitation, and of course to everyone that I got to meet there. Everyone there was so gracious. I mean, just what a phenomenal lineup of just incredible people. I mean, just incredible people. Many of them have been maligned because they believe in the idea that states of the United States have the right to be independent. And so, just phenomenal people. One of the foremost experts on Thomas Jefferson was there, and really got to really enjoy visiting with Andrew. I mean, just so many. I can't. Paul Graham. I had a phenomenal time with Mike Maharrey. I haven't seen him probably from the 10th Amendment Center. Probably haven't seen him since 2010, maybe, when 10th Amendment Center held a conference in Austin, and we got to participate in that. So it had been a very long time ago that I last saw him. I got to visit with him and his wife. Phenomenal people, just an incredible time, and a lot of great things are going to come out of it. So stay tuned. The actual transcript of my remarks are on TexianPartisan.com. So if you want to read that and check it out, you have the ability to do that. But to the point, the reason that we were late getting out of town is literally right before we were supposed to leave Thursday and start to pack early Thursday morning, Kara broke her ankle. And so what an absolute mess, right? But let me just tell you a little something about her, because I'm going to take an opportunity to brag on her a bit. As we were talking this issue through, for those of you who don't know, she has a medical background. But as we were talking this issue through, I'm like, okay, well, there's no way we could go, because I mean, you're basically one step away from playing a pirate at Halloween for every Halloween from here on out. And so she's like, there's no way that you're canceling this. You've got to go. And I said, there's no way you're going to be able to go. She says, well, if I stay here, then I'll be by myself, and you won't be here to help me with anything, and that's not going to work either. So she said, here's what we're going to do. She said, if I went to the emergency room, there's nothing displaced. She said, if I went to the emergency room, they would x-ray it. They would see the fracture. They would say that nothing was displaced. They would tell me to rest, put ice on it, put some compression and elevate it. She said, those are all things that I can do in a car or in a hotel room. So she said, load the car, we're going. And I kid you not, we ordered her a little scooter that she could scoot around on, put her knee on and use the good foot to push herself around. And she loaded up in that car and rode to Montgomery, Alabama, and did the entire conference wheeling around on her little scooter with the foot looking like an absolute horror show, and did not complain, not a single time. She was there for many of the speakers when she could, between keeping her foot elevated. But I mean, you want to talk about a real trooper. So just when you get an opportunity, just tell her thank you, because given what's going to come out of this, probably come out of this conference, she made the right call, and she's tough as nails. So as we used to quote the philosopher Phil Pritchett, tougher than the rest. And I did not hear much tougher from the other room. Oh, there she goes. She did it. So if those of you, I think Nate Smith is watching tonight, so he got that one, and maybe a few of you did too. So anyway, all right. So phenomenal conference. So let's get down here and let's look for some questions. Who do we want? Do we want email? Let's go email first. All right. Okay, this is from Terry. Terry says, Brother Dan, can we provide a link to our pledge video for recruitment purposes? Okay, so before I answer your question, let me set this up for everybody so they know what we're talking about. So on the new Texian app, one of the things that we are doing is we are working toward that number in the Texas blueprint for capacity building, that first number. and we are looking for real deal, dyed in the wool Texians. And so what he's talking about is becoming a declared Texian. Okay, so this is this is a subset. You don't have to do this, but we're asking everybody in the TNM to absolutely do it. But becoming a declared Texian. So when you do that, you effectively have your line in the sand moment, and you can read the Texian oath. You can um, read it out. You essentially read it, and then you type it back out. That's one. You can type it back out. Number two, you can record your voice, right, speaking it, or you can shoot a video. So that's how it works. And for those of you who haven't checked it out yet, go into the Texian app, and you will see that it's part of the entire process. And so check that out. Now, to Terry's question, there has been discussion about making those shareable, right? But we've got some other things we've got to address with the Texian app. I mean, look, this is the infrastructure. This is the backbone for the organization. Some people, there are a couple of people that have sent emails in that don't understand what it is, and I think we've explained it pretty plainly. But it serves, the Texian is our own portal, right? It is for the TNM. It is the backbone of our organization and effort. And so the fact is that we've got some key things that we need to do. We've got a roadmap for really, let's see, we're at week 3. So really for the next 3 to 4 weeks of major functions that we need to add to it, some bugs that need to be stamped out. But that being said, that is under discussion, and it is on the roadmap. So now they are not currently shareable. But you will have the option to do that in the near future, I believe, at least some form of that. All right, let's get down to the brass tacks. Where do we want to go here? It's very good to see. And oh yeah, let me say this too. For those of you who don't know, Lori Brunig broke her ankle as well. She did it in a much worse fashion. I'm fairly certain she actually stuck her foot in a wood chipper. The way it was described to me sounded very wood chipper like. But she is also hobbled up. So, you know, literally, I don't know which ankle Lori broke. But Kara, if hers is the opposite of yours, y'all could just kind of link arms around each other and walk places. I'm fairly certain that would work. I have thoughts. Okay, let's take another one via email. Robert, he says, if Texas turns blue, God forbid, what are the pros and cons for the TNM and or Texit? You know, it's weird because I actually had a conversation about something very similar to this over the weekend about this idea of turning red or turning blue or Republican or Democrat or conservative or liberal. Here's what I'm going to throw out there, and it's really a kind of a variation of something I said before. I defy you. Well, actually, I had the conversation this morning too. Man, this keeps coming up. I defy you to find a common definition for red and blue and Republican and Democrat and conservative and or liberal. And you know this because we have a term called Republican in name only, right? Where people use the brand but don't do something that someone would believe would make them a Republican. You have people that run for office here in Texas. I mean, I experienced it firsthand when Alan Ritter flipped from being a Democrat to a Republican. And he had been a Democrat his entire life. Democrat state rep, decided that he wanted to be a Republican, became a Republican, and immediately began sending out mailers that he was both a Republican now and you know, a conservative. And in the information war, the fact that we lack definitions for these things makes really any discussion problematic. And so I will say this, Robert, when people are worried about Texas turning blue, I think what they mean is governance by Democrats predominantly. And if that's the case, then I believe that some people would make the argument that we've already done so. Because when you have Democrats empowered in the Texas House to, advance or kill bills at will, some would say that that is a hallmark of power. It's sort of maybe you could call a power sharing arrangement. But at the end of the day, what does it even mean, right? Because if they are effectively in control, which means they're gatekeepers, they have we already turned blue, right? Are we purple? What does it effectively mean? So I would suggest that anyone who thinks that Texas might turn blue should probably analyze the situation as it is. Sure, we get lots of things that make Texans happy. People that self-identify as Republicans or conservatives are very happy about things, but also I about some things, not all things, but I also know that people who would identify as Republicans or conservatives are quite unhappy about a lot of other things, right? So much so that the anti-incumbent backlash is just utterly ridiculous. Apparently, not ridiculous enough to throw some of these bums out in the primaries, but it's real. So maybe, Robert, what you're asking is whether or not Texas, if it turns blue, and an absolute lock on governance. I would say that you would see some pretty crazy things, knowing the people that control the Democrat Party in Texas. I mean, they've driven out any moderates or conservative Democrats. Those things are as rare as a Sasquatch. So you effectively have the crazy wing in charge over there, and it shows, and it shows on the ground in their in their convention. When I think the last two conventions, they couldn't even get a quorum together to generate a platform. So, that being said, what are the pros or cons for us? Look, our arguments are the same arguments regardless of who's in charge. The federal government is a massive, massive problem for Texas, and Texas would be better off as an independent nation, and therefore Texas should be an independent nation. And that message doesn't change. Does it change the electoral math a bit? Maybe. But you'd be surprised that there are some Democrats in the House, at least that we know of, that are sympathetic, right? The last of the dying breed over there. So even if they're not sympathetic, at least they're open to the conversation. So we'll see. What does that mean for us? I don't know, because I don't see a scenario where that happens anytime soon. I mean, it took Republicans a very long time to wrest control from the Democrats. Took a lot of people fleeing the Democratic Party to give the Republicans that absolute lock on governance. But yet here we are, 26 years on plus, and they've effectively entered into a power sharing agreement with people that they didn't need to. And so have they ever been out of power? I guess is really the question. All right. Thank you for that question. Let's get down to it here. Here we go. The Crunch Bite says, what do you think Tallarico's chances of actually winning the Senate seat are? It's a really great question. I don't know. I don't know what his chances are. Polling is all over the place. People pretend like, Cornyn is about as exciting as a colonoscopy. They pretend like Paxton has a lot of baggage, but let me tell you, Tallarico's not baggage free. I mean, the things that he said to be a Democrat state rep in Texas are things that do not play well with the entire electorate. That being said, we have to also acknowledge the electoral reality, which is about what is it, 72% of all votes are in about 35 counties, right? And so, and if you want to see how that plays out in real time, look at Nate Sheets' victory over Sid Miller just in the Republican primary. Sid locked down pretty much all of rural Texas, but the bulk of the Nate Sheets victory came in those major counties where most of the vote is locked up. And so it's a major structural problem that we have here in Texas, that statewide electeds can be elected really from primarily these handful of counties. Same thing with constitutional amendments. Rural counties kind of get the crap into the stick, and it's a problem. So, what do I think his chances of actually winning are? If you listen to the polls, he's kind of 50-50 maybe, if we were going to put it that way. But yet again, those polls are driven by mainstream media, which has a definite bias that direction. What I do find interesting, though, even though I have major issues with the methodology, but that University of Houston poll, and I think we may have an article on Texian Partisan about it posted over the weekend, maybe it was Friday or Saturday. But even though I've got methodology problems with it, I think the sample size was too small for the subgroups. I think the margin of error is I think it's much broader than what they calculated. There's a lot of problems with YouGov polls. But the one thing that I did find interesting was that in the head-to-head between Abbott and Gina Hinojosa, as people are talking about projecting, what's happening and what might happen in November, Greg Abbott, who has universal name recognition here in Texas, was at 49% and just a few points ahead of Gina Hinojosa, who nobody knows, right? People couldn't pick her out of a line. Most people couldn't pick her out of a lineup. And so essentially a faceless Democrat is within striking distance, according to this poll, of Greg Abbott. So I guess maybe this goes to Robert's concern, which is there is a major problem. And this major problem, I think, helps Tallarico, which is probably why the governor and others called that emergency meeting last week in Austin to hit the panic button and say, guys, what are we going to do here? So we'll see. But I would say Tallarico's chances are, I don't see where he wins. Let me just put it that way. And I don't like to make political predictions or prognostications because there's a lot of ground between here and the general election. But that's just my take on it right now. Okay, let's get over here and take another one. Yeah, okay, here we go. Sorry about that, guys. I got a little sidetracked there. All right, now I have found my way. Okay, this is from Chris. Chris says, Daniel, what are your thoughts about Trump putting Mark Zuckerberg in a role advising the White House on AI and tech? It would not break my heart if Meta if Meta was dismantled and sold off for parts. I mean, it wouldn't break my heart at all. Look, Chris, there's no love loss between us and Meta or Facebook after what they have done to us. Very well documented suppression of the Texan issue. And I'm not talking about this crap that people talk about, about shadow ban this and everything. We've had legitimate, real, provable suppression, right? I mean, we've had it very well documented. And it's one of the reasons that we went to court and sued them under that law that Briscoe Kane and Brian Hughes wrote that had a loophole in it that you could drive a Mack truck through. But we went out there and did it because Facebook intentionally suppressed links to the texitnow.org site right ahead of an election. utterly ridiculous, provable. But that is the tail end of a very long history. Has been documented and proven, where they would remove people from our Facebook page. I mean, let's not even talk about just the other suppression that we got on this. I mean, we were outright banned by TikTok for a while. I mean, it just goes on and on. So, you know, your email has the subject Fox watching over the hen house. You know, I still think that what they did, I can't say that it's criminal, right? I can't, because apparently there's no law on the books, and there is this bit of a conflict to say it's their platform, they can do with it whatever they want, except for one thing, and that is our tax dollars go to companies like Meta and Twitter previously and all these other places that then engage in suppression of not just like fringe speech, because we know the polling numbers don't show. I mean, they already showed this is not a fringe issue, it's a mainstream issue, but topics that they find politically disagreeable. And so I have a problem financing a federal government that in turn finances an apparatus that suppresses our voice and the voice of people like you and everybody else that supports Texas. It's problematic, and I think everybody should be really, really upset about it. I don't know why people don't get as upset and irate about it as they should, because I mean, you think about what governments, and particularly the federal government, has started doing. They've started outsourcing tyranny as a way to have a distance between them and doing it. So, you know, something is unconstitutional for the federal government to do. So what do? They just outsource it, right? Let's not even start the conversation about flock cameras or the surveillance network they're building right here in Southeast Texas, literally going to businesses and homes and asking people, hey, will you give us unlimited real-time access to your cameras? And people are like, well, yeah, of course I will. So between the flock cameras and all these other companies that are sort of in that flock space, plus these agreements, they're literally setting up citywide, area-wide surveillance networks. And I know what these systems can do. The AI reads the plates. They can see the faces. They can track your movements from place to place. Well, the governments, how they get around is say, well, we're not violating your Fourth Amendment rights, right? I mean, we're not harassing you. What we're doing is we're contracting for information. We're going to let the private sector engage in the Orwellian surveillance. And that's essentially what happened with Meta. It's like the federal government said, we cannot legally, constitutionally suppress your voice without getting a bunch of people stirred up. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the digital public square that we have financed and funded with taxpayer dollars. We're going to contract out to them, and then we're just going to send them memos and say, well, these people are saying wrong speak, and so therefore you should shut them up. That's literally what happened. If you don't believe me, go look at the Twitter files. Collusion between the government and the private sector to violate your rights. So I'll tell you, Chris, I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about a lot of things that are coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, or really Washington Devil City. You know, Mordor on the Potomac. I mean, I don't understand why people are not more up in arms about this, about a lot of things, right? But this right here, I mean, it really takes the cake. It's insulting. It's insulting. It's insulting to everybody who got screwed over on Facebook or any of these other social media platforms that receive taxpayer money. It's a slap in the face. And if people don't see it that way, that's on them, right? That just shows how much tyranny they're willing to swallow because it comes from somebody in the same jersey that they wear. That was a bit soapboxy. I think I need a sip of coffee. All right. Phoenix Down says, I missed the last forever. Did y'all talk about /2 Pete Chambers? We did. Pete Chambers is a Texas first pledge signer, and so we've had the conversation about Pete Chambers. We announced when he ran, when he signed the pledge, the whole 9 yards. So yeah. Okay, man, that was a shorty. All right. Hey, we're at the midway point. So a reminder, if you're just now joining us, if you'd like to get your question in, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Wherever you're watching this, drop your question in the chat. If you're watching on the Texian app, right, web or mobile, you're watching there. There's a Q&A section. You can drop it in there, drop it in chat, wherever you want to, and Kara will see it, and we'll get all these wonderful things. And actually, I'm monitoring the one yeah, Nate said it right. We needed a resolution on surveillance and flock. Hey, I will tell you, I got an inside track on what's going on with that stuff. I can't divulge too much, but it's pretty doggone insane. And I do believe that we're going to have an opportunity to give you a tool that you can use to help us expose what's happening with that. But stay tuned. I don't want to spill too much. Ron Rafoon says Texas will be free. Amen. From your lips to God's ears, please. All right, let's get over here and see what we got. More questions. Oh, yeah. Drop your question in the chat, or you can email them to coffeetalk@vtnm.org. You'll see it scrolling down there at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to read this one because I love it. I love it when I get hate mail in the mailbag. Greg says, tired of these emails claiming Texas independence. Either do it or quit talking about it. Well, we're doing it. So there you go, Greg. I mean, I really can't say any more about that email. I think it kind of speaks for itself. Okay, this is from Dale. Dale says, disappointed with this link. I thought it would join me to Late Night Coffee Talk. Welcome to Late Night Coffee Talk. If you click the link in the email, you'd be on the Texian app and you would be watching Late Night Coffee Talk right now. So, sorry it did not meet your expectations. Okay. Let's get over here to this one. Man, this is fun. We know who's not. Yeah, flock cameras. All right, let's get to this one here. We'll check out the email. All right, so here's the question about the Wired from Tony. Tony says, "What's up with the guy who wrote the Wired article? Did he suffer a head injury?" I don't think that Ryan suffered a head injury. For those of you who do not know what we're talking about, literally we get back home from the conference and Wired magazine, like I guess it was Monday or Tuesday, maybe Tuesday, whatever it was. I get a text from Brian McClanahan. He's like, have you seen this? And I look at it, and it's this article in Wired magazine. Now, thankfully, it was behind a paywall. But my question is really who would pay to see that? But Ryan, you guys may not remember him, but when I did the virtual conference, the virtual global conference on self-determination that was hosted by the CalExit people, they had us. They had Larkin Jackson from Free Louisiana. Quartrip was on there. I mean, there was a whole bunch of people, but Ryan was one of them. He is an academic, and I don't have his book in here. But I've shown it to you before, long time ago. But Ryan is a professor at Syracuse University, and he writes generally about this space. It's kind of his thing, this whole idea of self-determination. But he wrote this article in Wired magazine that was just weird, unhinged, maybe. Full of definite of major leaps of logic. I'm not gonna tear into it any more than I did. I wrote a rebuttal and posted it on Texian Partisan. but I also wrote an op-ed response and sent it to the editors of Wired magazine, and they haven't responded to it. I doubt they'll print it, even though we're specifically mentioned in the article once. But by and large, they're not going to respond. McClanahan did an entire podcast episode. I think it dropped today, maybe, I think no, it was yesterday. But he did a whole podcast episode just dissecting the Wired article. And, I love to see the academics go after the academics, because it's something that we haven't had a lot of on our side, right? Every time our issue comes up, they drag out the desiccated husk of some third-rate professor from Bug Tussle Community College to talk about how we're crazy and it's going to lead to civil war and it's illegal and all this other crap that we know is just not true. And, to finally have academics come out on our side, like when Bob Murphy or when Brian McClanahan or Quartrup or any of these guys come out and effectively defend I'm not going to say the righteousness of our cause, but at least defend our logic and our methodology, and perform a fact check on what we're saying, to say, okay, these guys are not crazy and what they're saying is in fact true. That's always a great day, right? So if you haven't seen Brian's podcast, go do that. It's Brian McClanahan. You'll find it on YouTube. But he took it apart. So to your point, Tony, he did not hit his head, not that I'm aware of. But Ryan Griffiths is writing. He's not writing to people like us. He's writing to the left. Right. He's writing to the people that, that support what's happening in Minnesota or to California or to he's writing to progressive leftists who are starting to come around to the realization that their state would probably be better off outside of the union than in the union. Actually, effectively the same case that we're making here in Texas, just from their perspective. And Ryan is essentially hitting the panic button, right? And basically saying to these people, you can't think like that, because if you think like that, it's just going to be, and then he paints the apocalyptic scenario of civil war, this and killing each other and blah, blah, blah. It's just a bunch of crap, right? And honestly, I think Ryan's writing it because people that are ideologically aligned with him are considering a mechanism that people like us are successfully employing here in Texas. They're considering it for their states. And he just can't bear the thought that it could produce a situation where we don't have progressive leftists taking control of Washington, D.C. and imposing their brand of governance on all of us, right? So, bottom line is, I think everybody, I don't know that anyone should get really incensed about the article. Honestly, I see it as a great sign. It is a phenomenal sign, right? Ask yourself this question: why now? Right? Because when I called Brian about the article, I told him, I said, here's what's interesting about this article. I said, everything about it's crap, right? It's just really terrible. I said, but here's the one question: why now? Like, why this particular week? Why that particular day? Why did they choose now? Because you got to think about this. If what the opposition says is true, then anybody who believes like this, it's a big nothing burger. Nobody believes it. There's no momentum. There's, if you believe all the stuff that they say, then why would Ryan Griffiths feel like he needed to write a piece against it? And, mention them and also mention us. Why would he need to write a piece against it? And more importantly, why would Wired magazine, right? I mean, they're no slouches, Condé Nast and, whatever. Why would they decide to publish it? Right? So if this issue is not timely with wind at its back, then it would make no sense, right? It would make absolutely no sense whatsoever to publish that article. Not only to write it, but to publish it. It would make no sense whatsoever. So, I mean, guys, this is great news. Anybody's like, oh, I don't feel like anything's happening. You're just not paying attention. You're not paying attention. If you think nothing is happening on this front, that's because number one, you're not in the game, right? You're not paying attention. You're not in the game. And number two, maybe you don't know what to look for. And what you look for is the opposition coming out with their claws, right? When they do stupid things like this, they reveal that they know what's going on. The mainstream media may want to try to keep it quiet, but I would fully expect to see more pieces like that. Uh, I think not, it's about to be knives out. I think they're getting ready to. They're in full freak out mode. I think so. So anyway, thanks for the question, Tony. All right, let's see. Do, 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 do. All right, James asks, what is the name of the new podcast? Funny you mentioned that because today I was working on recording the first episode of the new Texas First podcast, right? We, for those of you who don't know, had a Texas news podcast, did not really fit what we were doing. We wrote it out, we wrapped it up at the end of the year, and now that we're into 2026, the Texas First podcast is just about ready to launch. So rebrand, a little bit different direction with content, a little more focused and discipline, but that's what it's called. And I'm excited to get back to doing it. We've got some really great episodes coming, far shorter, far more digestible, and we're reserving a lot of the interviews that we're doing for live streams on or pre-recorded on the Texian app. So you'll have an opportunity to see the live stream, raw, unfiltered, on the Texian app, these interviews with these folks, and be able to interact with them live. That's what we're really shooting for the other Texian Talks podcast. So 2 are in the shoot, in production, and I'm looking forward to really getting these very first episodes of the Texas First podcast in the can and ready to roll. And yes, it will take the place of the Texas News podcast. So there we go. Thanks for your question, James. All right, let's see what we got here as we get ready to wrap up. All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will take 2 more questions. Okay, this is not a question because there's like 3 questions answered in here, and people will answer them in the chat. But I want to just draw your attention to something that I just saw. Texian, that's the app, right? That's the backbone. I talked about this at the very beginning. That this is our own internal app for the Texas Nationalist movement. It's not a different organization. It's just what it's called, right? It's just that particular part of what we do. It's the Texian app, and it's the organizing app for our volunteers and activists and members and supporters. So, make absolutely sure that you understand the distinction, and it'll make sense to you by the time it's all over with. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Yes, we are over the target indeed. Sorry, I'm chuckling a lot. All right, so let's get down to the final thing, because this question in particular is going to be fun. So, and it really is not just one question. It's actually several. Kevin sent it in. Bob sent it in. Who else? Jenny. There's a few here that have sent this question in. Bruce. All right. So let me just kind of try to lump all these into one thing, if I possibly can. And it is about, and the reason I'm lumping them together is because I'm going to have a hard time I've got to try to navigate around some landmines here because I can't reveal too much too soon. But people are already asking what our plans are for the 2027 legislative session, and it's a very, very important discussion to have, and it's definitely one that we are having internally inside the organization. What does the 2027 legislative session look like? And I'm going to let me just kind of cut through all of the various ways people have asked us, and let me just say this: our 2027 strategy is going to naturally evolve from now until the start of the session based on one thing and one thing only, and that is our capacity building efforts to secure the minimum number of declared Texians. And if you don't understand what that is, go log into the Texian app, go look at the Texit blueprint videos that are there. There's a whole section for them in media. But you go watch the first one about building capacity, and then go watch the second one, which is about getting the vote. And if you understand those two together, then you will understand what it looks like. Essentially, what our plan has to be for getting ready for the 2027 session. You know, we came out of the primaries okay. I mean, we did really good. I mean, go look at the article, right? There's a recap article in Texian Partisan. I'm not going to rehash that, but you know what that means is that okay, so now what? So the pieces are set in the Texas legislature, but what are we going to do here? And that's where the declared Texian situation comes in. If people want to know what's happening, well, it's basically because we need to know who we can count on. You know, are we going to, when we make the call to go to the Capitol to do something, are we going to have 15 people or 15,000 people, right? That's what the difference is. And if you don't understand how big of a difference those extra zeros after the 15, how much of a difference that makes, then you haven't really watched much of the Texas legislature. But we're here to guide you, to teach you, to instruct you, to provide a framework, an organizational framework that you can adhere to, the tools that are available for you to connect with other Texas supporters and other voters in the Texian app. That's all to serve this entire process moving toward 2027. But ultimately, what our 2027 plan is going to be determined by basically how active everybody is between now and then. I mean, that's literally it. I can't put a gun to people's head and make them do anything. Either Texans want independence or they don't. And if they want it, then they will plug in and they'll help. And look, I don't need everybody. What we need is enough people committed that are disciplined enough, that are passionate enough, that are ready to go when the time comes, to do the things necessary to connect with people in their community, to help spread the network to their friends and their family. We said all these before, but now you have the tool to actually make it happen. It's literally available in your hands, which is something we have not had before. We've never had the institutional framework to operationalize what we were trying to do. And so the bottom line is, if you are watching this right now, then you need to go and you need to download the Texian app. You need to go, if you don't have an account, you need to go register one. If you had an account on TNM Social, this thing's predecessor, then you already have an account here. If you don't have one, then go sign up for one. Doesn't cost you a dime to sign up for one. But you need to get plugged in. We need to eliminate the blocks. I mean, there is this sort of theme that I think is happening tonight, and it was not intentional at all, but I think we're all centering around the same thing, which is, you know, go back to Chris's question about Zuckerberg and, you know, the soapbox that I went on about us not being able to communicate, to have to go through these gatekeepers. We don't have that anymore. You know, we talk about, you know, you're worried about Texas turning blue. Well, they're organizing in the field. They're connecting with voters. They're doing these things. Kind of a big deal, right? Well, guess what? Now we do that too. We have the ability to put the tools in your hands that make that a reality. So, you know, the bottom line, friends, is 2027, for all of you who have asked the question, is completely dependent upon how successful we are. And I don't mean just me and the leadership. I mean you. If you believe that Texas should be an independent nation, if your spouse or your friends or your coworkers, whoever it is, right? How committed we are to making this happen. Are you committed enough to become a declared Texian and show up when you're called? That's really what is going to be the determining factor. We roll into 2027 200% over goal, and now we're suddenly having a different conversation in the halls of Austin when we roll into the Capitol with a whole slew of people, right? So, and it's not just that, right? It's more than just having that number to be able to roll up to the Capitol. I don't want to leave anybody with that impression. It's about having sufficient strength in the correct places to be able to sway the right people to be able to do the things we need to do in the legislative session. And like I said, I have to navigate some landmines here, and I can't talk too far future because there are just some things I can't talk about right now. Not publicly, but they are conversations that we are having internally. All right, gonna make one more sweep because, like, I knocked out, I think, 4, 5, or 6 questions with that one. So, okay, that one is clear. This one is clear. And okay. Boom, boom, boom. All right, rock and roll. Then I do believe we are clear, my friend. So with that, I have got to get back to work. But what I am going to do is just remind you of a couple things. If you have not heard it enough tonight, there it is. There's the Texian app. Go to Texian.app. That's Texian.app, and get set up. Let's make it happen, right? You know what to do. I've talked about it enough. Also, be sure to get your official T&M logoed swag and Texas swag at Texianstore.com. All the proceeds from the Texianstore.com go to support the efforts of the Texas Nationalist movement to get out there and make independence a reality. Additionally, you heard me mention it more than once, but for your news, views, and etc. From a Texas perspective, and if you want to keep up with the latest haps in self-determination, then head over to TexianPartisan.com, the official news of the Texas Nationalist movement. Go over there and check it out, TexianPartisan.com. Well, friends, as I said, that is a wrap. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I want to just end with this word. I, on a personal level, am probably more excited about where we're headed right now than I have been in quite some time. I mean, we've had some exhilarating things, but the bottom line is some things are happening and multiplying and moving, and there's the synergy that's happening. And frankly, friends, I want you to be a part of it, right? And if you're not, I'm going to encourage you to do so tonight. Don't wait. Do not pass go, right? Let's make it happen. We want you as part of us. So if you believe that Texas should be politically, culturally, and economically independent, then you're our kind of people. So join us, okay? All right. I will leave you with the words that I leave you with every time we're together. They're not my words. They're the words of Sam Houston when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now, and the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.